Oh, we're on.
Right. There we go. A bit of a technical difficulty. We've fixed the microphone now.
We were
All
on
of
mute.
the silliness going on in the background, you've just missed, funnily enough. But anyway, we're going to be talking about colour today. So essentially how to work with colour, how to design with colour, how to use colour to enhance your designs as well. There's lots and lots of different things that you can do using colour to sort of enhance your designs. We're not going to talk about just that though. There's plenty other information that we will
They're probably
discuss.
wondering, why am I here?
Well, yes, I guess the reason that Dad is
I've asked
here
myself
is
that.
well, yes, he's we call him the technical expertise.
Well, I guess it's because my experience as a professional photographer and cameraman. So perhaps I might be able to bring some light to some aspects.
I guess so. But yeah, so as always, we've got lots of people here, which is fantastic to see. Who have we got? We've got Doris is here, as always. She says she was a bit early, but she doesn't mind waiting. Well, we're glad you could join us. Thanks, Doris. Evelyn's here. We've got Alicia, Janet, Lily. Lots of people saying, we can't hear you. We know.
Yeah,
we fixed it, thankfully.
We still had it on mute.
Aisha's here, Lily, Nancy. By the way, Matt's dad is Andrew, in case we didn't mention. But yeah, so we've got some questions that have been sent in to us from a few people. We picked 4 very good ones, and we're going to sort of go through it, I guess, talking about that sort of thing, but in terms of how to use colour. So essentially, we've got the basics that we'll be talking about in terms of a bit of colour theory. I'm going to show you some fantastic tools that you can use to help you design how to choose your colours. Yeah, we're going to talk about all sorts of different things, both from sort of the designing aspect, but also from the technical side as well. So a best of everything, I guess. That's the plan. You've got your first ever hello.
Oh, hi.
Nancy says, hello, Andrew.
Hello, Nancy.
But yeah, and lots of people actually are greeting you, which is
great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to have my glasses to read.
Yeah, so he'll be going back and forth between the glasses, I think. But anyway, we're going to do a little bit of color theory, I think, to get started, to figure out exactly a nice sort of starting point to just, I suppose, figure out exactly the best way to explain everything. Where, yeah, like I said, we're gonna start with some color theory information. So the basics of color theory essentially is how the color wheel itself works, how it was developed, why, and so forth. But essentially, let's just take a quick little look at it. In terms of the color wheel, this is it just here. So the color wheel just there, it looks very, very simple, but it was invented only as recent as 1966, funnily enough, by Isaac Newton. So when he was doing his experiments splitting light with prisms and so forth, he sort of discovered that there was like a circle of light, as it were, and so the light joins into having all of these different colors and everything. So I guess that's sort of where the color theory basics sort of comes from, is from that information sort of developed by Sir Isaac Newton. If we're looking at, we're going to look at sort of the basic version of splitting the color wheel into initially primary colors, secondary colors, and then also tertiary colors. So the way that it's usually done. So if you're a painter, you'll be well versed in this sort of information. So essentially, you've got your 3 colors there: your yellow, red, and blue. That's in the shot.
Your primary colours.
The primary colors essentially, and using those 3 colors on how you can create other colors as well, and then this is sort of just the basics of it, more or less. So you can see there we've got our red, our yellow, and our blue, which make up the 3 most primary colors that we have.
No. In terms of light, it's different.
But we're talking in designing with color.
Okay.
We're not talking
Okay.
RGB and so
Okay.
forth. We're not
A
working
primary
with
colour
Yes,
in
we're not
light is
working
something
with
else.
light per se.
Okay.
We're working
Technically,
with.
then it's not a primary
Yeah,
colour.
no, they are the primary colors when you're painting, but maybe not in terms of light.
Okay.
But anyway, we're talking in terms of designing with color, which is more aligned along painting rather than the premise of using light.
Okay.
Andrew's just off to shut the door. It might be a little bit loud at times, but hopefully that won't be too much of an issue over the course of the entire stream. We're going to try and get that sorted. But anyway, but yeah, this is we're going to start with color and then how to go on from there, because I see we've got a question here from Doris.
Hello, Doris.
Can you do a video like this on how to design your own jewellery from an idea of a finished piece, please? Yes, we'll come to these sorts of things. But yes, so like I said, we've got, if I just bring it back up, if I just bring it up, there we go. So there you've got your colour wheel. These are the primary colours here in terms of painting. So you've got your red, your blue, and your yellow. And when you're working in terms of paint, these are the ones that you can join together, your sort of basic constituents with which you can create your other colours. So if you look at the wheel here, it's split into 12 segments there. So pretty much essentially each one of these is using greater proportions of each of the primary colours and lessers of other to create others. So if you used an equal measure, for example, of red and yellow, or an equal measure of yellow and blue, or blue and red, you get your what are called secondary colours, which are these ones just here. So half red, half yellow gives you an orange, half yellow, half blue gives you a green, half green, half blue and half red gives you that purple colour in the top quadrant just there. So essentially these are all just, easy sort of basics where we're going to start off nice and simply and then sort of move on. So once you've got your primary colours and your secondary colours, when you start mixing those two together, you get what are called your tertiary colours, which more or less, if you just kept splitting the wheel again and again and again and kept mixing and mixing and mixing either of the two colours either side, you create more colours, which is sort of halfway between. So for example, at the top, if you mix your secondary colour of orange with your primary colour of red at the top, you get that sort of deeper reddy orange tone. If you mix the orange with a yellow, you get more of an orange peel sort of color in the oranges, and so forth all the way around. But basically, that's the most simplest aspect of what this color wheel is and how to use it. So once you've sort of got those basics, these are all the hues that we're talking about. What you get beyond that are hues, tints, tones, and shades. So what's a tint, what's a tone, and what's a shade? Essentially, a tint is when you have your overall hue, the most saturated version of a color, and you add white to it, you get tints. If you add black to it, you get a shade. So that's why you get these sort of darker versions, like nearest the center of the circle. And then if you add a mixture of black and white, so various aspects of grey, you get a tone. So essentially that's what that little diagram was showing you, is that as you continue to sort of add your white and your black, you are essentially creating lots and lots of different tones. So for example, this just here is, if you had the very uppermost right corner of the top right, shows you the most saturated version of a particular color, red, for example. So we've gone with pure red, that's it, in the very, very top right corner. If you look in the top left corner, you've got your whites, and if you look in the bottom left corner, you've got your blacks. So essentially, it's sort of, well, the bottom right is black. So if you were to move across from the very, very top right corner to the very top left corner, that's all of your different tints, just adding white along the top, which more or less desaturates towards like pink and so forth. If you're looking at the top right and then you go down to the bottom right, that's adding black. So that's all of your shades are along the right, and then your tones are pretty much everything in between. So all your different variations of color with different aspects of black and white, mixing them all together gives you loads and loads of different colors in terms of your black, red, and white. So those
how to use the wheel is now perhaps
yeah, I guess. So
what we need to know.
Yes,
what
exactly.
Theory.
So now that we've got the basics of the theory, we're going to talk about it in terms of how to design, really. So I guess the first thing that you want to do is when you're creating your jewelry masterpiece, you need to start by picking your overall mood of your piece of jewelry. So whether or not you want something that is going to be a warm color or maybe cool colors, maybe you want to have something that's daytime, something that's nighttime. If it's understated and muted, if you want something that's vibrant and eye-catching, you sort of work with that color wheel to try and find your what you're after, essentially.
And I think this is something that we do when we choose our different colorways of the same piece. You can give people those versions in the same piece. You can have one piece of jewelry but have different colorways to give you those different results.
Yes, exactly. So one piece of jewelry, which I guess I've got some just here, it's the exact same design, but this is a good example because they're all just one single color. If I just pop them up on the screen, just here you can see it's the exact same piece of jewelry, which obviously this is not going to be any form of surprise to anyone. You use different color beads and you get a different color bracelet. So more or less not particularly surprising information, but of course that's more or less the gist, that the different mood that you get by changing the design. Something like this, is maybe more evening wear, where something in that sort of greener, fresher, brighter tones is maybe more daytime. Something like this is sort of maybe a little gentler, a bit softer, something calming maybe. That's sort of what we mean by the mood that you want to choose. So,
or in fact, indeed, that a lot of ladies, I'm sure, will choose colours based on what their favourite colours are in their sort of wardrobe.
Exactly. The outfit that you're wearing. It's funny, when we're at craft fairs, especially, people come, when we used to do the craft fairs,
guess their favourite colour.
Exactly. They'd come with a basket full of blue things, and they'd be wearing blue, and you could just go, so is blue
your favourite
to be your favourite colour? And they'd go, well, I guess so.
How did you know that?
How did you know? Exactly. So that's so it's sort of the first part is figuring out the mood and the tone of your...
And there's also fashion to think about.
Well, yes, of course, exactly. So essentially, you've got to pick the vibe that you want to go for and sort of how to choose your colours, which there's lots of ways that you can get inspiration as well. Like, for example, if you've got a lovely big book full of tropical fish, or maybe access to the internet, which clearly you do if you're watching this right now, you can just sort of Google tropical fish and it will give you fantastic ideas, which I'm gonna show you how you can use photographs a bit later on to sort of choose your colours. But also if you're looking at like clothes shopping, I know you do this a lot, Dad. You
Can't stop me, can you?
Yeah, no, you love clothes shopping.
At least once every 10 to 15 years.
Yes, exactly. So you can essentially look at the sort of the fabrics.
Actually, you have to do it.
Well, I do. Yeah, I do have to. Well, Mum goes, I couldn't be bothered. Buy him some clothes. But yeah, so you can look at the different fabrics and so forth, and the colours that they've used in these fabrics, and you can sort of replicate that. But once you've got your initial sort of design, we can sort of take it back to the colour wheel. So if we have a quick look just here, so you can see you can split the colour wheel straight down the middle, well, I guess on a diagonal, but still, into your warm colours and your cool colours. So that's a nice, easy way to sort of start with your designing. I'm going to put this one up because it's a fun comment from Sabrina, who used to work for us. We always used to make fun that she'd only ever wear black.
Like the German cars.
Exactly. She's German, and that's clearly, you know, greys, whites, blacks, they're her favourites. We're gonna talk about those later anyway, which is, you know, another
Yeah, actually,
fun
that
thing.
is something that we found when we were doing shows in different countries. People choose different colours.
Yeah, exactly.
We have found that, you know, those blacks and greys and silvers sold very well in Germany.
But
blues
surprisingly,
very good
and
in
very,
France
very
and-
saturated reds in Germany.
Oh,
Anyway,
and guess what colour's great in Ireland?
yeah, exactly. Purple. No, obviously green. So, yeah, essentially, you want to sort of choose your mood, but we'll talk about your warm colours and your cool colours, essentially. So if you have a quick little look, I've got a picture just here. Here's like a selection of some of your warm colours. So you can see they're sort of nice summery tones, especially if you wanted to have like a summery mood. That would make for a very good example. Or if you wanted to have a look, for example, for something that's more winter themed, you could go with your winter tones. So these are, you can see they're much cooler blue tones, that sort of thing. Are the gist that you can go for. So if we look at that picture again, these sorts of colours, so the purples, blues, down to like those sort of bluey greens and things are on the cool side, and then you've got your pinks and your reds and your yellows, which obviously look like
You know what's interesting? I've just realised that looking at that colour wheel there, as it goes from in autumn colours, it's like at the end of the warm getting into cool. It's like the same sort of thing as the seasons. And in the spring here, you've got all these like pretty pinks and what have you.
I'll put the picture back up. But
Yeah.
I
You see what you see, like autumn colours getting into sort of more browns and yellows and oranges, aren't they? And your springs are coming up with these like purples and pinks,
purples and blues
you
with
know,
the flowers.
So there we
and
go.
stuff.
So it's
Yeah,
not
there you go.
warm.
But yeah, you've got the 4 seasons as well. I guess makes sense, doesn't it? There you go. You'd think someone had thought of that before. So yes, essentially you sort of got to pick your beginning mood. But in terms of choosing your overall color, rule number 1 is there's kind of no rules. You can do whatever you want, whatever you like. If you like it, that's all that matters. So obviously there's no hard and fast rules. You must stick to these rules, and if you don't stick to them, your jewelry's going to be awful and your life will be ruined and you'll never sell a thing. You know, that's not how it works.
Design. Sometimes can work really well.
You can.
Often we all discuss what colours we're going to make, don't we, with our jewellery, and sometimes it takes a real bold leap of faith to kind of put this colour with that colour.
Well, exactly,
sometimes it doesn't work, and
There's-
sometimes it
There's
does.
definitely. Well, we're going to start with sort of the most simple version of choosing your colours, and then we're going to build on it from there. So the easiest way to sort of choose a colour tone is to go with neutral tones. So things that are sort of along the colour of skin tones. So you've got the white, which especially if you look at this picture right here, I'm looking ultra white myself. So clearly I'm colour number 1. Dad's maybe colour number 2, and then as you can continue along further, more browns and things if you've got a darker skin, if you're a more tanned person, and then of course you've got blacks, because again it's that same sort of vibe. They're neutral tones, so blacks like Sabrina's favourite, the white, and then sort of those neutral skin tone colours. It's a really easy place to just start with those colours and then just pick whatever colour that you like to be your sort of focal popping out colour. That's a nice, easy sort of starting off. Beginner's method is just use neutral colours and then 1 or maybe 2 colours that really pop out to be your focus. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is to use what are called monochromatic color schemes. So what I mean by a monochromatic color scheme is using one hue, so be it blue or red or pink or whatever color it is, one sort of hue, and then just more and less saturated versions of the same color, which, yes, I'll show you it in picture form, and then I'll show you it on the bead mat. So if you have a look here, you can see you've got a nice bright vibrant blue there at the bottom, on the left, sorry, and then they become more and more desaturated as you continue along to sort of give you that overall pattern, where this is kind of similar. If I just show you in terms of jewelry, no, apparently not. There we go. In terms of jewelry, you've got your sort of most saturated, and it desaturates down. I know this one's slightly different hues. It's not quite the same. You can maybe see it a little better with here, where you've got that sort of most sort of that softest color and the darkest in the middle, sort of like that. Because
shows the pattern then when you've got
exactly
contrast.
it does. When you've got a contrast in just one color, it's a very, very easy way to sort of show various different things. So it's a really easy way to sort of start off, is you just pick one color that you like, and then you just do various different shades of that one particular color.
Well,
So
sometimes when we're looking at one of our pieces, we see if there is a pattern in it that we can help show that pattern
Well, exactly.
by choosing the most contrast bead of all.
Exactly.
To show the pattern. Otherwise, or sometimes you might not want to show the pattern. You might want to
hide things.
sort of disguise
I guess
it slightly.
it's a process. It's a process. But anyway, this is sort of like the basic fundamental is that you pick your overall color of whatever it is that you want to use. So your initial sort of shade, be it like a blue, if you want it to be that warm tone, you can go with an orange. If you want it to be the cool tone, you can go with that sort of blue family color, much like what we're wearing. Obviously, we're both very blue today. Clearly, we were feeling the cold today, but obviously from that
yesterday as well, probably.
no, probably, and the day before that, and the one before that, and the previous 6 days too.
That's because I got 6 of them.
I guess so. I bought them. I'd know. But yeah, so essentially, what you're going to do from that is choose whichever color. You can sort of use that as your basis. Pick the one color that you want to use most, and you can choose a couple of different shades, and then you use what you want to bring out as you use it less, obviously, but what you would call your hero color, the main focus of your design. So you can do it with one color, two colors, whatever it is that you want to. But if we have a little look, just here, these are what are called complementary colors. So essentially, they are the complete opposite of each other on the color wheel there. So you can see you've got your yellows and purples, and you'll see the reason that you get a nice harmony between these two is because you've actually got the maximum contrast between the two different colors. So they're complete opposite ends of the circle, as it were, and so that you can be sure, because they don't look at all similar to each other, that they will be completely different. So for example, if we had a little look at our blue, our orange tones, okay, we'll say we want to have some orange. The overall color we want to be orange. If you want to do something that's bold and interesting and looks fantastic, but you know is going to be sort of a safe bet, you have a look on your color wheel. We've got orange sort of up on that top right corner. So because we're in the top right, we want to have a look at the bottom left. So that would be, for example, if we were using the orange color, the bottom left, which is exactly the opposite on our color wheel, is that sort of blue color.
Teal.
Which,
Actually, there's an interesting note there. A lot of movies, when they color grade, because color grading is a mood that you add in the film, will use an orange highlights and a teal shadows. They use the same feel for a mood on a movie when they're colour grading it, just in case you're interested.
Here, so I've got a little very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Were
there
you
you
listening?
Go. Well, yeah, I was listening. I was half listening, but also half trying to prepare the next picture. So you can see I've got an example here, exactly like he was talking.
Yes.
You've got your red orange on this side, and you've got your teal on the other. So you can see they are opposites to each other. But you can also see as well that when you've got your your color wheel, it also works quite nicely if you go with the sort of the opposing different shade, sort of equal value, as it were. So you can see this is the whitest, and this is the lightest and the darkest. This is the lightest and the darkest. So we've kind of gone for two that are at equal points directly opposite each other. So you can see the second one out and the second one out on both of these as well. Let's see. So no, that's the wrong one. I want to see our faces. There we go.
Okay.
But yeah, so
Let's
essentially,
answer some questions.
yeah, we're gonna get to the questions. Right. It'll follow on. We'll follow it on.
We'll stick to the script.
We'll stick to the script, exactly. He loves to go off piste and gets confused.
Usually later in the evening.
He likes to go off piste, yeah. You know, a nice glass of whiskey. But yeah, no. So as you can see, Mr. Tangent over here loves to get distracted by things, shall we?
Totally disorganised.
Yes, exactly. But yeah. So anyway, that's option number one. Is using. Let me just get us back on track now. Option number one is called complementary colors. So essentially, if you're just going with two colors, pick one, so like a monochromatic theme, and then one contrast that you like. There's three different types, though, of if you want to do three colors in your design. So I'll show you the first one just here. This is called Analogous colors. So more or less, if you're looking at the color wheel, you pick a color and you go the two colors that are directly beside it. I mean, you can do it with more if you want to. You can do it with 3 or 4 different colors if you wanted to. But whatever you think is the sort of the color that you've got. So if you want your main color to be that sort of orange tone, you've got the sort of the paler, the slightly yellower one, you've got the slightly redder one, but of course you can also do it with other colors as well, so you can go all the way across. If you want to use multiple different colors all together, you can very, very easily, just like we've got here, you can go all the way from like a bluey green tone through the greens over to the yellows and the oranges as well. Essentially, you just pick your one favorite color that's your main thought process, I guess, and then you work outwards from there. So for example, in this one, I think green would probably make for a really nice main tone, and then you just have highlights of yellow and maybe slightly less of the orange tone. And here you can again go with like your green and maybe slightly less of the blue, just sort of to give it an outward look, I guess, starting from that central color. I mean, you don't even have to. You could go orange and have everything incorporated until you've got less and less to blue. It's entirely up to you. But anyway, that's the first of the different colors, I suppose, methods that you can go. So that's the analogous. We also have analogous. We also have the what's called triadic, which essentially that's called triadic because we're working in triangles. So basically what you're choosing are 3 equal points around your color wheel. So you can see that you've got, by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. I just realized I didn't even think about saying that. So like and subscribe right now. If you haven't done it yet, whoops, wrong one.
We need to have a little button you press.
I know,
which
a
just
little
comes
button
up
which
and
just
says
comes
that.
up. I know. I need to make it.
Okay.
I just haven't done it. You know, one day, it'll be there.
Stick to the script.
Exactly. Back to the script. So anyway, so like you can see, you've got your 3 different points around the circle there. They're all equal points. So because the color wheel, we started with our 3 primary colors, and then we doubled that to having sort of 6 colors, and then you double it again for your tertiary colors to 12 and so forth. So you can sort of see that it sort of lends itself to being a triangle because we're starting with 3 colors and doubling and doubling and doubling. As long as you're sort of going outwards, adding pictures, colors, in that sort of triangular shape at equal points from each other. So you can see there's 3 in between each of the gaps. So pink to orange has 3 in between, orange to the sort of tealy green has 3 in between, and so forth. And you sort of just pick whichever color it is that you like best, and then sort of use the other 2 as your highlights. But I'll show you in our little picture here. So you can see, again, you use the same sort of weighting in terms of how far out of the circle it is that you're working, and you can see that it creates a nice equilateral triangle where each of the 3 are equally distanced apart from one another to create that effect. So that's what's a triadic combination. Nice and easy. Pick your favorite and then work it.
I guess if you were thinking that you'd like this combination with that, but you really wanted it to maybe to pop out, you'd use the darker ones and leave that still, and then that would show your pattern.
Exactly.
We'll use these in a darker tone and we'll pop it out with this, or vice versa, whatever way.
Of course, you can use as well your darker tones and things. It's just what you want to be the main one. Sort of focus on that, and then use these as highlights here and there if you want to. So, for example, if your main, I need a piece of jewellery, for example. Here we go. Maybe something like this will do nicely. I've only got 2 colours though.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Actually, this one's a good one. We'll come to it. We'll come to it in a bit. But anyway, I'll show you as well first the other version of using the triadic colours. There we go. So this is again using 3 colours, but this one it's slightly more. It looks advanced, but it's actually the easiest way to make jewellery that looks absolutely fantastic. So this is the one that I really recommend you trying to use, that you use the one that is on the opposite side as your main colour, and then you look at the opposite side of your little colour triangle, your colour wheel there. So if I show you it back on this one here, so just say you want your main color, whatever you've chosen as your mood, you want to go with something that's sort of autumny or whatever, you say this is your main color here, and what you would do is you look at the opposite side of your color wheel, so that's why it's called the complementary color, and then you move outwards. So for example, you could go with this color here and then the ones either side of this just here. So you've got your orange, and then you could use like your sort of periwinkly blue or that sort of greeny tone, and the 3 together will look really, really nice. This is your main color, and then these are your highlights. I guess you could do it the other way around as well, but of course maybe it's a little bit more difficult. This will sort of look cleaner, that the majority of it is this, and then you've got your highlights. So
a good example.
Yes, this is a good example. So yes, you can see just here, like we've done on this design just here, which if I zoom in, hopefully you can see it. It's got those lovely green beads, and then there's that sort of purpley tone, which if you look just here, you've got your green beads here, that sort of yellowy green, and right on the opposite is that lovely bluey purple sort of tone just there, which gives you the complementary effect sort of happening. But you can sort of go with one that's a little bit bluer, a little bit sort of on the either side of the 2 colors if you want to do it that way. So it's a lot of flexibility, that it looks like you're doing advanced things, but it's actually a very, very clever way of choosing colors to look absolutely fantastic. So that's the 3 different ways of doing 4 colors. And then there's another version which is kind of similar, again, which is using 4 colors, but again it's sort of like a complementary method of using them where they're split from either side of your complementary colors opposite each other. So as we were looking at the color wheel just before, you've kind of got your, I'll just show the picture once more. You can see the orange in the middle, and then that sort of bluey tone on the opposite side of it. You've kind of gone for one that's just to the left and one to the right of the orange, and one just to the left and one to the right of the blue as well. So again, it's that same complementary effect, but then you've got the opposing colors either side of each other, which looks kind of, hopefully this will look okay. You can see just here, this particular version, it's kind of the same. I've used like a pinky tone on the outside and on the inside, so at the very inside, and then between them I've sort of gone for that tealy colour that is directly in between. So you've kind of got those same complementary colours happening, much like what we've got here, but of course I've sort of tried to do it in a way that they sort of all manage to work together and they look really fantastic.
Very successful.
It works very, very well, and that's by using those 4 different colours that sort of all go around the color wheel together at the same time. So that's sort of another one which is slightly more advanced. It's like mixing it up on the complementary. And then this one's the most advanced lessons, shall we say. It's the most difficult to make work, but can look really, really effective if you're trying to go for something that's a real statement piece, something very, very bold. You do what's called a square scheme. So rather than how I showed you the triangle before, you use like I guess it's a square, so it's equal points all the way around your design, but in 4s. So this, much like the triangle, it's exactly the same, where it's four absolute two sets of complementary colors, I guess. So the pink and the green in this instance are complementary, and then the blue and the orange are complementary with each other as well. So that's why they work quite nicely. But of course, it is the most difficult to perfect.
Yeah.
But the best way is usually you pick one color that you like best, and then you use the other three as your sort of highlights, or maybe pick two that are sort of the base, and then their complementary versions as the highlight.
I mean, sometimes we view some of our pieces of jewellery that the fourth colourway is actually almost incidental. It might be just the smallest little size 15
Exactly,
CP,
just a hint.
which it's
a hint of
hardly
something.
noticed really. You know, you've kept to your main three colours, but you just want a little something which isn't going to disturb or upset everything else.
Exactly. So it is all sort of swings and roundabouts, shall we say, of trying to get everything working. But then once you've got that sort of theme, you've chosen the colours, it's about choosing your hint, your sort of your different levels along the spectrum, which I'm going to show you a great way soon. So make sure you don't run off anywhere.
I'm sure people will want to know where they can get their own colour wheel from.
Yes, exactly. Maybe we'll make a PDF where you can. Oh. Maybe we'll make something. Yep. But anyway, I've got a couple of fantastic websites that you can use, and I'm going to show you how to use them a bit later. But first, we're going to sort of talk about how you can use different. No, am I missing a piece of paper? No, maybe. Where's that gone? Oh, whatever. So we'll just have to wing this bit. So yeah, the next thing is sort of choosing your, like I said, the different tone levels of your finished design. So if we have a look at this little piece just here, you can see, of course, you've got your four different weights, as it were, of your different design, which all of this doesn't have to be used in jewellery, by the way. I know Jan, who's here, is an avid quilter, so she'll be able to use these same techniques, but you can use them for more or less anything that you're designing with. So quilting, jewellery, painting,
it's all related.
Making a website, it's all the same stuff. Colour theory is the same in all systems.
And it can be very effective. Do you remember when we were doing our bead fairs?
Yes, exactly.
It's a very good example.
Yes, that is
where we used to mainly concentrate on selling gemstones and pearls.
Exactly.
And one day Mathew came up. Was it your idea? Well, you could claim it.
It was my idea. Do you want to know actually the thought process?
Go on then.
So we were at a craft fair, and we were exactly opposite one of our competitor companies, who also were at the time. Like mainly specializing in gemstones, and we just kind of had all of our gemstones laid out so that you could sort of peruse through them and look through them. And the strange thing was that everybody was going to our competitors across the way, and we were like, why is this happening? Our stand looks just as lovely as theirs. Why isn't this happening? And I remember being back in
Scotland, wasn't it?
It was in Scotland, and I was in my on my bed, and I'm like, why was everyone attracted to their stand and not ours? What was the difference? And I sort of realized that the way that they'd done it, they got halfway there, that they had all of their beads in big blocks of color. So all of the blue ones were here, and then all the red ones, and then all the purple ones, and all of those in big blocks. And I realized, wait a minute, why don't we put them in a rainbow order? And all of a sudden,
that stand looked really
exactly,
classy.
And everyone would come by and go, "Wow, your stand looks great."
Yeah.
Because you're using sort of.
We haven't done it here.
We haven't done it in here. No one's coming to look. But yeah, it really improves the overall aesthetic when you sort of think about colours in that way. So anyway, coming back to what we were talking about. More or less, when you're choosing your colours, you can use saturation and hues and things to give you a different effect. So if you used a really bright blue and a bright orange and a bright red, that looks really fun and vibrant and exciting and sort of summery, I suppose. But if you use the exact same colours and turn down the saturation, go for a slightly darker shade, you can see these more muted colours straight away. You've got this really classy look. It looks really effective. It looks beautiful. And you can see it would look nice together, those three colours, which more or less this is three colours, two on the opposite side of the circle and one on...
I guess you're applying the same theory to your jewellery as you might be doing to your clothing.
Well, yes,
if you want
exactly.
To be understating
or decorating your house or something.
Going, look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, would you want the orange Lamborghini or the black Lamborghini? Which one are you going to get?
Well, yeah, exactly. I guess you'd probably get an orange one because, you know, if you've bought such an expensive car, you may as well, you know, show it off.
Understated.
Oh, I see. Well, anyway, so yeah, you can sort of use those different effects to create different moods, as it were, in your different designs. So once you've kind of got that, there's other features. Once you've chosen your colours, there's other features that you need to think about. Which this kind of leads us on to some of our questions, which.
Did we write them down somewhere?
Yes, they're here somewhere. They're on the back of one of the pieces of paper, maybe. Or did you put them down?
Oh,
there they are. There we are. So yeah, there's one of the questions that we got, which is from Susan. She said, is it better to use lighter colours near the exterior or the interior of a piece? So in terms of choosing colours, much like with our chromatic design, as it were, when you have a look, for example, at this, the bead that stands out the most is the most saturated one on the very, very left. So you can see this is sort of the one that's going to, depending on how you do it, you can either work with saturation or you can use, I guess, lightness. So if you're using a greater saturation, the one that's the most saturated, in this instance the most left, is the one that stands out the most. If you have a look, for example, on our little ring of colour, just here, it's sort of black towards white, and the ones that are lighter in colour tend to be the brighter. So it sort of depends on which beads it is that you have and how exactly you want to use them. So most often, if you've got like a really dark colour, sorry about that loud noise in the background, if you can hear that, but yeah, essentially your darkest colour will make for a background and your lightest colour will make for a foreground. But if you've got one that's really saturated and bright, that's going to bring it to the forefront. So it's kind of whichever one you want to bring to the forefront is the way to use it. Exactly. This is something that is worth looking at. So you can also use the different textures of your beads as well. So you can see this is all made with seed beads, but the way that it's done is using the properties of your beads to enhance your design to sort of make it stand out the way that you want it to. So for example, you can see that the butterfly looks like it's on top of the background, and it's quite easy to achieve this. So much like Susan's question of how do you get these, which beads do you use at the inside and the outside, the ones, this is entirely dependent on the type of surface of bead that you've used. So for example, if you wanted to use just seed beads like we have here, the ones that sort of lend themselves to being background colours tend to be ones that are more transparent. So the three different greens that we've used, that's a transparent green in the dark and the medium and also the light colour there. And when you do that, it sort of recedes into the background because they sort of allow more light into them and you don't see them as much. But then when you can compare that to other beads that are, for example, opaque, like this pink just here, it's a really vibrant but opaque colour, they really stand out and come to the front. It's almost like you've got different layers. So you've got your sort of transparents at the bottom, then you've got your like if you had color lined beads, they'd be the next level, then you've got your silver lined beads, opaque beads, and the metallic shiny brightest are really coming to the forefront.
Well, they, in a way, if you think about it, probably reflecting the light.
Exactly.
Whereas your transparents probably absorb it
a bit more. Exactly. So if we look at that once more, you can see even in these sort of bottom sections just here, see these ones, there's two different colors here. I don't know if you can quite see it, but see this one at the bottom where it's just that little bit darker in the bottom corner here, but then you've also got, that's a color lined bead where essentially you've got the color of the bead in the core and then like a clear glass, And then you've got other ones which are nearby but look a little bit more vibrant, which are actually coloured glass and then have a silver lining to make them extra bright and extra shiny. So this kind of lends us on to our next question, which came in from Wayne, where Wayne has asked, and I think this is a very, very interesting point, which I'm sure a lot of you want to know, is when you're choosing beads online, how can you know what the bead is going to look like when you get it at home and when you take it out of the packaging? So I guess I'll put it to you. The first aspect, which there's also the question that Wayne has asked. He says, one, how do you know what the beads are going to look like? And two, how do you know they're going to even look like what they look like on your monitor?
Well, some beads are the surface is almost impossible to photograph accurately to get that feeling. Sometimes, you know, with our microcrystals that we've got, you only see them really when you move the bead.
Well, yes, exactly.
And you're not going to get that in a stills photo, and,
No.
and that's why sometimes it's great to have the video to actually rotate things and see how the light comes in, because that's how you're going to be wearing it. And of course, the other thing really, I suppose, is like you correctly say, you've got to take it out of the packet to have a look at it and things like that. But a lot of things that you don't think about perhaps is the lighting conditions that you yourself are looking at the beads, because when we're designing our own pieces here, we might all get around the table and decide that, you know, one of us likes colour A, somebody likes colour B. And when we all agree that we're getting close, the best thing to do is just, if it's daylight, is to go out in the daylight, and we get a totally different look sometimes.
Exactly.
So the conditions that you're looking at it are very important, and it may be something you don't even realise, that you're in conditions of lighting that your eyes have already adapted and taken out a colour cast. Perhaps in your room, let's say you might have green walls and it's daylight coming in and you're getting a lot of reflected green, and without knowing it, your brain has filtered that out because it wants to see colours, you know, properly, not as
a green hue.
Like a camera would. So it's very conditional upon what conditions you're looking at it. And it goes with monitors.
Well, especially as well when you're taking the photographs.
When we're taking the photos, the lighting conditions that we're in. When we film this here, we're trying to add more light that's the same colour as daylight, because currently it's...
Well, I can even show you a fun little experiment. We'll do it with... It'll be your face, seeing as I'll get round.
Sorry.
But you can see that if you change the lighting conditions in the room, which
all you're going to do is add one normal yellow incandescent light.
So at the moment, we're all using just daylight colour lights. And then this is just
I don't know. Will you see much of it? It's gone.
Yes.
Oh, look, I've got a tan.
There you go. You've got a tan now. But you can see it makes a huge difference to the actual colour, how much his skin tone changes, and how much even the beads look.
Well, and then I have to think, did I put that camera on auto white balance?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it might be. But anyway, so there are too many variables, really. Sorry, don't I get your finger?
Yes.
Too many variables really to control to accurately say with, you know, any certainty that is exactly the right colour, because when we take the photo it'll be in different lighting conditions, when you view it it'll be in different lighting conditions, whether it's, you know, daytime, nighttime, evenings. It could be a room in fluorescent lighting. You know, sometimes we'll look at stuff under fluorescent light, but it still doesn't look as good as accurately anyway as when you've got the full spectrum, which is daylight.
Also, in terms of the actual beads and how they're going to look when you buy them and take them out of the packet, the most important thing is just scooch over a touch. Thank you. Let me get a bit more in the middle.
Oh, I was.
Yeah, no. So this is about me, didn't you know? But yeah, no. The thing that you need to look at is the type of bead and the type of surface that you're purchasing. So, for example, if you were getting an opaque bead, the colour in the photograph is probably going to be a pretty good representation of the actual bead, assuming the photograph was taken in the proper conditions by a professional, that sort of thing.
I was also going to say your camera chip won't view. It's not as good as our own eyes.
Well,
so
no.
sometimes it's not as sensitive to certain colours like reds,
purple, for
pinks,
example. It
and
doesn't
things like
like
that.
purple.
And we'll look at a photograph and think, that it's pinker than that to us, or something like that. The way the camera sees it is very different.
And then, of course, when you're looking at it on the monitor, again, the lighting conditions in the room that you're in will affect how it looks on the monitor. But assuming in an ideal world, the colour is accurate of how it looks in a bag, if you're wanting to know how it's going to look when you get it out of the bag, you have to take into account the type of bead that it is. So if you've got, for example, a transparent bead, when you take it out of the bag, a lot more light is going to pass through that bead and sort of wash the colour out, as it were. So it will desaturate, it will lighten, it will look a lot lighter than if you just had it in a bag.
You can get fooled by seeing a bag full of those transparent beads and go, wow, that's a great blue. And then when you put them into your piece, you think, well, the blue's gone now, because as an individual bead, it doesn't have a strong enough colour.
Yeah,
but
well,
a opaque would.
Like, for example, this dark green at the top, which is, you can see it's definitely a green. It looks more green here in real life than maybe on the screen there.
Well, it's got a white backing.
Exactly. But when you use that when you look at it in the bag, it looks so dark it could almost be black.
Yeah.
And you don't even realise until you get it out, which maybe we even have it around somewhere. Probably 50150 or 120 maybe. We'll see if we can get it out. You can see it really does instantly look so much darker when it's in the bag compared to when you actually get them out. It's a very, very easy way. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, I've got it as a smaller bag.
I'll have one, please. But yeah, you'll see that taking into account the actual colour of the bead is quite difficult in photographic terms, and also especially if it's transparent, because of how it looks inside of the bag. So if I hold it up to you here, hopefully it won't be too reflective. See how I mean? It looks black almost, but then if you look at it on a bead mat, which hopefully this will work, you see that the beads are, well, they still look quite black in this, but let's put them on a white background, which is sort of more accurate to how it will actually look in reality. And then I'll zoom in so you can actually see the colour. This might actually make it worse putting it on white. Wait, there we go.
Well, because the camera is on sort of semi-automatic.
Yeah,
really,
so it's kind of not
so
wanting
to
show.
White. That's a bit bright.
But you can see it hasn't quite worked the way I hoped it would. But what looks very, very black in the bag, you can see does become much lighter. It looks much lighter for us in real life. But again, this is the same issue we were talking about, where the actual camera itself can struggle to pick up the sort of nuances in the bead, where it doesn't look quite as light.
To just briefly mention, if you're taking photographs of your pieces, you might want to, if you can, work with your exposure on manual, because that was a very good example of where you put a white background down and the camera really only wants to see the world as grey, and it thinks, oh, this is too
Here you go. You can see
bright.
them slightly greener now that I've turned down the brightness of our light.
And if you can put it on manual, then you can overexpose it so that the white really is truly white.
See, there you go.
Grey.
There's the difference. You can see as one big mass. It almost looks black, but here you can actually see there is green in there. It does have that sort of different colour to it. Even just by pushing them together, you can see how much darker they look when they're in a pile and there's no light getting through. And then spread them all out, and then all of a sudden the colour comes to life. So it's definitely something that you need to try and take into account of when you're buying. So silver...
an opaque or a galvanised surface is much stronger as an individual.
Exactly. So opaque and metallic beads. Metallic can be difficult to photograph as well because they're so shiny. But the color that you get from a metallic is tending to be more accurate to the photo, hopefully. The color-lined ones, if it says it's color-lined, usually it's going to become a lot paler when you get that one because it's got this lovely block of color in the center, but it's surrounded by clear glass. So when you string them up, you've only got one bead side by side rather than all these dark solid masses behind that bead to make it look like it's that color. So they lose a lot of saturation. They become much, much lighter.
So when you're putting your pieces together, then you need to think of, are you going to see through it or not?
Exactly. So that's
If it's on
definitely
the edge, you know, it's going to disappear if it's a transparent.
exactly. Well, transparents in general, they're going to recede. Things that are like a clearer glass with a color lining are going to recede. Silver lined ones will probably recede a little bit. And then once you start using your opaques and your metallics and things where they have a solid surface that you can't see through, they're going to really start to stand out and become much more visible, which I think I have.
But you know, some of the nicest qualities that beads have sometimes is that they are very, very subtle, and it's the subtlety that makes it that sometimes as an individual bead it doesn't look too much.
No.
But we've got quite a few where they're very subtle surfaces, and it works very nicely once you put it into a piece.
See, look, here's an example right here. You can see these ones, the crystals themselves, these are transparent crystal. These ones are sort of semi-transparent. These are a metallic bead. That's a bit too bright, I think. But you can see also as well that metallic seed bead through the center really brings itself to the front. You see that dark sort of coppery bead, and you see the metallic one beside it much, much easier than you would see the more transparent rose quartz color, and then also that sort of slightly more matted milky version, which is sort of halfway in between, stands out nicely as well. But again, they're going to recede. But you can see here what we've done is that we've sort of gone with like an orangey browny tone, and then we've kind of gone around our color wheel in towards the pinks. So if you have a look, it's sort of these sorts of tones and moving in this direction. Let's zoom out a bit. There you go. So there, you've got your sort of browns to give you a sort of a back basis color. We've sort of gone for these lighter colors as your background, and then that dark brown tone is what really comes to the fore because it's metallic.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's a total coat, isn't it? It's a complete coating, so that it reflects copper. And it's very strong.
Exactly. But again, there's a lot more to it than just those few little things. Like, for example, I even wrote a little list for myself. Things that you need to consider. Here we go. So let's just... I'll read them from my list. So you've got to be thinking about the different materials of your beads. They're going to give you a completely different look. So for example, if you've got pearl beads in the same color as a seed bead, the surface that you get is going to be completely different because of how the pearl itself interacts with light, and how even a pearl bead and the shell, they're very, very similar colors, but because of the way they interact with light when you're wearing them, they do look completely different. You do also get the same difference between saturated and desaturated bead colors. So, for example, like when we were showing you, you can get a completely different feel to your jewelry based on using less or more saturated beads. So, like I showed you with the Cascade bracelet just here, you can see this one, it's very much daytime, bright, summery, vibrant, exciting. And then you've got this one, which is more understated, sort of maybe more of a classy, lacy color that you want to... It's about the emotion that you're bringing to the jewelry just by changing the color a little bit and choosing different saturations for each other. So it's sort of an interesting, different thing that you need to take into account. Also, as well, we've got your bigger and smaller beads making a difference, which again you can see on this one. The bigger bead is what you see first. You can see on the inside I've used a transparent bead to sort of give it a more subtle look so that you don't see it nearly as much, and that helps to bring out those larger sort of matte surface beads that really catch the light. You can see as well, even in there, the small little crystals, those teeny weeny little crystals, they do absolutely pop. But because they're small, if you were to look at it from a distance, so let's zoom out, they disappear and the big beads don't, but you still get the sort of the sparkle from them from a distance because they catch the light.
So I was talking about being subtle.
Exactly. They can be very, very subtle, but they give you a very interesting effect. You also have to sort of take into account regular shape versus irregular shaped beads as well, of course, because your regular shaped beads, which hopefully I've got a Manhattan here maybe?
I don't think so.
No, it doesn't look like it. But if you use regularly shaped beads,
They're
it
square,
makes
aren't they?
your
Or cubes, I think.
your jewellery look very neat and tidy and so forth. So when you compare the two, like these two just here, again, because the beads are all the same shape, all the same size, it's very, very regular, very neat, where even though this one, it's equally as repetitive, the stitch that you're doing is just one stitch again and again and again. It's very repetitive, but it gives you additional effects because you've used different size beads. You've got that spiral effect happening from the full design just because you've used beads in varying shapes and sizes. So again, that's definitely something that you need to take into account, and especially when you're choosing colours, the beads that are the biggest are the ones that are going to stand out the most.
I don't know if we've reached the part in the script where we could include some of our viewers. You know, if they've got questions.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
Is that in it?
I'll see if there's
they
any...
must be busting to ask you certain things.
Yeah. If you've got
So just
questions,
listen
put
to
a
us
big
rabbit
fat
on.
Q. Put a big fat Q. There's and we'll answer some of your questions. And speaking of answering questions, where have I put that sheet? Here it is. We've had a look at these two. Oh, and we've done this one. This one was Lee's question about buying online. How do I know the colours are true? Yes.
Yep.
And then what was this one? Oh, yes. Okay. So this is going to lead us on. Patty's question is, what's the best way to see what colours go together besides a colour wheel? So I'll
We just
start.
do it, don't we?
No,
Usually.
but
together.
there are ways that you can sort of do this. Which the easiest, of course, is to take information from other places.
Okay.
So, for example, you can go online. And there's a lot of websites that do it. This one, which I'm about to show you, is called Visme. This is the blog on the Visme website. But you can see just here, you can take a photograph and you can take colours from that photograph to help you choose your colours that you want to use. So you can see, much like how I was suggesting before, you go, yep, I'm going to go with the yellow as this main colour that really brings things out, just here. And then I'm going to go with a few different shades of it. So sort of working downwards, you've kind of got those complementary colours just there. And then you've got that blue to really give it a lovely pop. So again, you can just look at photographs and go, yeah, these colours are really looking nice together.
You could use Mum's technique of squinting
Yes,
as well.
exactly. If you just squint your eyes, I won't use that picture because it's not so good. But for example, this one, if you squint your eyes, you can sort of see the different value, as it were, in terms of colour. So, like for example, this one here, even though there's lots of different shades of blue, when you squint your eyes, the number one colour that really, really comes out is that bright, vibrant, complementary sort of yellowy green tone. And then, of course, you can see it's even got its own shade there as well. So it's like using two colours together and sort of joining them as a group. The website...
Visme.
Visme, yes.
V-I-S-M-E.
visme.co is the website, but I'll put a link. I'll put a link to this website in here. It's a really good blog, which I can show you a bit in a little while.
See, what you're doing when you're squinting is you're kind of taking out the subtleties in the difference between the colours, aren't you?
Yes,
So
exactly.
when you squint, you just are seeing a little bit more, not the subtle transition, but more the things that stand out.
Yes, exactly.
So
So,
you don't
like
see
in,
so much as a dark grey, you just see black, and then you see grey, you don't see the in between.
No, exactly. And much like that photograph just here, you can see that, of course, when you squint at that, you can see those purples and those oranges really contrast against each other. And again, you can sort of see when you open your eyes.
Yeah, and it's almost if you squint, you just see those sort of colours. See, there's no green really much in it, because when you squint, you kind of lose the green as black. It kind of mixes the green and the dark green and the black.
And it just sort of disappears in there. But yeah, if you can. So yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can do that. You just find a photograph that you like, and you can go, yeah, that'll make a lovely design, because look at those purples through the sky and so forth, things like that. There's a lot of different websites that you can use where you can...
You can't put your own photo up there, can you?
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's a lot of different websites that you can use where you can use what's called a colour eyedropper to sort of pick out colours that are in different images. Like this one here, you can see that green and the orange really pop against that blue, which when you look at your colour wheel, it's kind of all around that opposite side. Again, this one is closer to that neutral tones where you've got all of those different neutrals, and you see even though there's only a tiny amount of that really light colour, it absolutely stands out because it gives you that pop in there in comparison to the rest. But yeah, you can use a lot of different colours. Again, this is like from nature. You can see greens and pinks and things going really, really nicely with each other to give you that beautiful design. So a lot of different ways that you can sort of play with those different photographs and pick colours from it. But we do also have, which I think you might find very interesting, is another website, which I'll just pop that on. This website is called coolers.co. So
one of your favourites.
Yeah, I do like this one. It's very coolers.co. And I find that this one, you can see the website address maybe up there in the top corner, maybe not. But anyway, here we go. So here's coolers.co. And you can use this website in several different ways to build your own colour palettes. So if you want to do it in the most basic, simple way, you can come onto this website, which is the colour generator of coolers.co, and you can sort of use their colour generator to help you pick your colours. So if you hit spacebar, I'll show you what happens. It brings you up a whole new colour and it goes, hey, this is a nice idea. What do you think of this? And you go, oh, very nice, thank you. Try another one, and you just keep pressing spacebar and it will give you an idea. If, on the other hand, you've got something specific in mind that you want to try, their website version is much better. It's got a lot more tools than the phone version, but I'll show you some great tricks for building your own colour palette, as it were, and how to expand on it as well. So
what you're saying is people could look at the beads that they own.
Yeah.
Say, look, I've got this green and I've got this yellow. What are my other? And you could put those into coolers, and it would say, look, what you could.
How about this?
Okay.
Exactly. You can do that, but otherwise, your other option is sort of starting from scratch and then from scratch and then working from there. So you can see when I mouse over each color, it's going to sort of highlight it, and that's the one I'm going to be working with. You can move them around and things as well. So let's just say, first thing that I like to do is see how you've got this number here. This is going to be of no use to you when you're choosing beads. So see how just here it says hex. Click on this and change it to, I like that one there, HSB, because you can choose the overall color, how saturated it is, and how much brightness. So essentially, if we said, I want to go with a, let's go with a purple. We'll start with a purple. Purple is always popular, so let's increase the saturation of it. You can play around with these, and hey, let's make it a little bit lighter as well. So you can play with these three bars to choose your specific color, and once you've chosen that color, you can look at it in multiple ways. So you can view a whole load of different shades if you want to, and go, this is the shade we're using, but you can work with some others. Do you know what? I like this color, so I'm going to go with this shade here, and you can lock it in place. then if you wanted to, let's say this we want to be our main focal color right there. So we could even duplicate this one so that we've got two different colors. I know there's a way that I can add an extra color. I need to see if I can do it. I'll leave it like this for now. But anyway, here it is. You can add a color there, and let's just paste in the same. Well, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to it. So anyway, you can also remove colors if you want to. So we'll go with like a 3-color design, shall we? So let's pick 3 colors, and you can go, yep, I really like this purple. Let's lock that in. If you want to do it the easy way, you can just go spacebar, and that will go here. Here are some nice suggestions, and already you can see it goes, hey, why not a really nice dark blue, and maybe this sort of what's called cameo pink just here. You go, I like the pink, but maybe not the blue. Maybe it's a bit too dark for you. You can maybe play with the shades and see if there's one that you like, and go, yeah, maybe that's a little more subtle. Maybe something a bit brighter. Otherwise, again, HSB, you can go, do you know what? Let's try and go with something. I know we've got purple. Maybe let's try like a more of a yellowy color, because we know that's on the opposite end of the color spectrum to like a purple. That could give you your sort of effect there. And you can play with them and go, do you know what? This is the one I want to stand out the most. So I'm going to maybe play with it. You can do that. That's a one way to do it, and you can sort of add colors in if you want to. You can move them around as well so that there's others next to each other and so forth. There's lots of different ways that you can do it. That's if you want to play. So that's sort of like paint by numbers, choosing colors if you want to. Otherwise, what you can do is have a look at ones that people have already made, or if there's a particular color that you like, you can get it to give you information about that exact color. So for example, if you click on more up here, it comes down to explore. I know there's someone here. Oh, look, pick palette from a photo where you can upload your photos. But if we go, okay, let's pick one color, you can get lots of information about that color. So we'll go with the one that they've suggested. Maybe I'll make a little change here. Let's go with, I like this, there we go, maximum purple they call it. I like this color. And it's going to give you lots of information about that color. So you can see the different shades, what happens if you add various levels of black to it, the tints if you want to add extra white, and what happens if you add extra grey. Then keep coming down, and you can start seeing if you go slightly more towards like your blues, if you want to go slightly more to the reds, changing the temperature of it. You can have a look at all of these different things, and it will show you all of these different pieces of information. It shows you what the complementary color is, what the analogous colors are as well, what your triadic colors are. So if you were going to go with 3 different ones, what the square looks like. So these are all the things that we talked about today.
Yeah, that's good.
The 4 different corners. This is like either side of the this is like the square version, which was the same as, if I show you the instruction, hopefully it will work. Here we go. So this one just here, this tetradic, is the same as this just here. So you can see they're either side of complementary colors. So it's a really, really interesting way to have a look at it. The rest, I think, is just for if you were looking at it on monitors and things. But you can see there's different versions of it. And that's a really interesting way to look at just one specific color that you go and say, this is the one I like best. Oh, whoops. Here we go. Come back to here. So that's the color picker that they have. And then the other one, which is really interesting as well, is if you want to explore at the top there, there's loads of palettes that people have already made, and you can try them out and see which one that you like best. Like for example, this here, using these sort of pinks and a neutral, which you can always use a neutral. If you've got, for example, like a purple and a yellow, you can throw in one of your neutral tones as a good suggestion as well. So it kind of gives you a lot of different ways to sort of play with those. But there's lots and lots of different palettes that you can play with and have a look that people have already made, and you can sort them based on trending, which is going to give you things that are popular now, the latest ones, the overall most popular ones ever, and so forth. So you can do all of that sort of information if you
what
want
functionality do you lose if you don't have a computer? If you just have it on the phone,
So if you have it on the phone, if you're using the generator, it's not as good. That's pretty much the only downfall. The color picker is exactly the same, where you pick your one color, you go, this is the bead I want to work with, this is what I want my main color to be. That still works just as well, but when you're trying to use the generator, which if I bring it up, the only thing that you can't do, which I find super annoying, but on the phone, I mean, you can still play with it. You can only sort of, it's if you were looking at the Coolers website, it would be like only being able to press spacebar rather than having the ability to individually choose your colors. So you can let it choose you full color schemes for you, but the ability to actually change the color and go, hey, I want to have this color instead, this lovely color. You can't do that so easily on the thing there. Which one?
Sue just saying this is great, but do you then see if they
Right,
have...
so this side is great, but how do you then see if there is a bead in that colour? Well, again, that's the most difficult aspect of it, is that you've kind of got to then play compromise, I suppose, and look at what
in
you've
practice
got.
now.
Exactly.
You've got your
You've
theory.
got your theoretical idea, which is your ideal, which you could print that out if you wanted to onto a piece of paper, and if you've got a good printer, and try and then match beads to that.
Because of course there's absolutely millions of colours.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's only going to be a certain amount of coloured beads. So
no, of course.
You do have to make a compromise. You're going to have to go, well, I'm looking for orange. You're not going to be looking for a slightly darker or slightly light. You're going to have to compromise somewhere eventually.
No, of course. Here we go. This is a good suggestion here. Kaylee says, is there a way to work out colours of beads that look like the colours on the web page if you're picking colours out? So do you know what? Let's try this in theory. This could be interesting. We'll see if this works. We're winging it here a bit. But if we went on
we've gone off?
We're going off piste, yeah. Let's go to the Bead Spider website. And let's say you went beads... And we went seed beads.
Right behind us.
Well, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Let's have a look at our Preciosa size 10s, because I know we got plenty of those. Maybe I should have looked at Delicas. I'm not even showing the website. Wait, here we go. So let's just say we're on the Bead Spider website and we're looking at the Preciosa size 10s. Assuming that the colour is nice and accurate to what you're going to get. So again, like it says, you need to have a look. This one, for example, is a stripe on a crystal. So the colour is going to be a lot paler than this because it's a clear glass with stripes on it, where something like this, a metallic iris, is going to be very, very accurate to how it should look. So if you said, for example, right-click on this picture and you went save image as, and then you just saved it on the, where's the desktop? Hiding from me. Why can't I see the desktop? Whatever. Let's say we save it to our pictures folder. You could then go over to the Coolers website, which is coolers.co, and then start the generator, or actually better yet, you can go pick palette from a photo. So let's see how this works. Browse an image, and now if I upload from the pictures folder this file right here.
Oh, very good.
There you go. There's your palette of those sorts of colours. So you can even use your little thing here and go, this is the exact colour I'm after. And then that will show you. You can then stick this into the generator. So open in generator. So if you wanted to have a full photograph of many different colors of beads, like a proper photograph of whatever it was that you wanted, you could go, yeah, let's pop that one there. This can be that dark color. This can be maybe this really dark color and sort of thing. And then you can just open it in the generator. and you can start playing from that point. Let's hide all these adverts. We don't need to see them. But that's hopefully that answers your question there, Kaylee, on how you can use their tools to sort of help pick your colours. So that's good, quite good. I'm glad we did the experiment.
And actually,
Thanks for the
almost
question.
interesting to see that this monitor is far different from that.
Oh well,
monitor.
yes, exactly.
And so
I mean,
when
we
you're
can't show
looking
you
at
that,
that,
but
no, I know they can't see that. But when we're looking at that photograph, we go, oh, it's quite wide. Look at it back up onto the proper monitor, our reference one, and then it's a totally different look. So it's a good example of where you can't really rely on your monitor, but you can on the photo. Just go, yeah.
So yeah, essentially the process, as it were, is that you work from your overall overarching color that you want to go with. Like, so for example, let's just have a look at one of our little designs just here, and hopefully if I just turn that down a bit, you can see my overall color is the overarching opinion that you get if you squint. It's the dark blue. So that's kind of where I started. I wanted to start with something that is the background color of my design. The overall look, I want it to be blue. Like, for example, in this other one here, which this is going to be a class we're going to do in, I don't know, maybe a month or so.
A Zoom class.
A Zoom class, yes. We're going to do a Zoom class on how to make this because, yeah, it takes 2-day Zoom classes required.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can see, like, on this one, it's predominantly green. So that's sort of where you would start. You say, I want something that sort of resonates with nature and kind of reminds me of like a wisteria plant, for example. If that was your initial thought, you'd go, yep, the main thing I want is green, because if you think about like a wisteria plant, the green plant itself is what you see most, and then the flowers themselves are the highlights. So in the same way, you can use this to, if we zoom in, you can hopefully, there you go, you can see the purple a bit better on there. You go, okay, I've got my main color, which is the green, and then from that, I'm going to enhance it by just adding here and there little dabs of my highlight, my main sort of little punctuation mark of what I want to be the focal point. So what turns your jewelry from being just green into having that fantastic little additional feature by adding in just that extra little color there. But you can also see, like here, we've gone with other shades of green as well. We've put in little crystals because then that gives you movement. Crystals are great for giving your jewelry movement.
Actually, no, I was going to say, this. Do you remember why we called this the ivy? Because the purple makes it wrap around like ivy.
Yeah, that's
around
true.
Here, so you can see that.
But yeah, you get that sort of effect happening, and there you go. See this crystal sparkling when you're not moving, but obviously when you're wearing jewelry, you're always moving, and so it gives you this much sort of brighter effect and looks really, really interesting, and sort of gives you that extra enhancement. And you can sort of use the things that you've learnt about the color wheel to try and start with your foundation color, find shades of that color, and then bring in your focal color. So, you know, whatever you've got as your big focal beads as well. You can do it the other way around, of course, if you want to. If you've got, for example, some really big, lovely... Here we go, this is a nice example. If you've got like a lovely big green focal bead, so nice large beads like these fellas here, you can see they're really big beads, and you can say, this is what I want to be the show-stopping, the you can work the other direction if you were. So you can see this is sort of like a bluey green, and then when you look at the color wheel just here, opposite that sort of bluey green is like a really red, if you wanted to do it that way. Otherwise, you could try it maybe something in this sort of a method. Actually, why don't we look at this? This is going to make it easier, isn't it? Let's look at this piece just here. There we go. So yeah, because our beads are sort of, if you've got this color wheel just here, which you can print out, they're sort of in this area here on the wheel. And so you could go, okay, you could do like an orangey red, or maybe you could do like this example just here and go with something that's orangey, something that's red, and something that's bluey, and bring it all together. But you use this as the thing that just pops, and maybe use one of your other colours, something over here, to sort of be the basis, so that this really, really pops, really comes out.
There's Jan asking, but are they using Pantone colours? Yes, you can do, can't you?
Jan, are these sites using Pantone colours? They do have in that little section where it was exploring the colour, it does give you Pantone colour options, but essentially because it's using every colour under the sun, you can pick your exact colour. There isn't a Pantone colour for every single shade, so you know, it's a not quite, but they do tell you the nearest Pantone colour if you wanted to do it that way.
Now, I have a bit of a problem. It's time to go to the post office. Otherwise, the
Oh, yeah.
American ladies and the Canadian
Well,
ladies
we're
aren't
pretty
going
much
to get
finished
their
now.
order.
Do we have any?
Because I have to go.
Right. Okay. Well, you'd best be off. Otherwise, people at home won't get their orders.
I know. So I've only got a few minutes now just to
Well,
go and
I mean, I think
double-check it.
I think we've pretty much covered everything we
Are there
wanted
any
to anyway.
questions in particular that we
If
missed
you've got
out?
any questions, technical questions, now's a great time to ask. You know, see what sort of things people have. How often do you all just use the beads you have versus design? Well, lucky for us, we always get to. We have many.
We just
beads.
order them.
Exactly. We just choose them. We go, hey, this is going to look great. Let's do something like this.
No,
and we
it's
order
not
them.
quite right because we have to look at the quantities that we have as well.
Exactly.
No good in
So-
going, hey, that looks great. We can make 2.
Yeah, no, that's not so useful. So again, it's I suppose because we have a larger range than most. I suppose.
And we are used to adapting and going, okay, we haven't got enough to make this, which means now we better change this bead so that it sort of flows, doesn't it? On that you kind of go, okay. Oh, but really, I think we start with what do we need the most of, and so it might be the crystal, the most thing that you're going to look at, and what's going to go with.
This is another interesting question just here, which I'll show. It's a nice big one. Essentially, the gist of the question is how do you pick pastel colours so they don't blend together? So the thing that you need to do essentially when you're doing that is pick your triad or your opposite ends of the circle. So using your colour wheel, when we wait a minute. Look at the colour wheel just here. If you're using pastels, these sorts of inner ones, make sure you're using ones that are completely opposite each other. Like, for example, when we did our little beaded egg, which Leonardo seems to have stolen. Doesn't matter. But anyway, if you don't want them, you don't want to go with pastels that are all near each other. You want them to be opposite each other so that you get maximum contrast from the beads, so that even if they are similarly saturated or similarly vibrant, then you will still see them from one another.
I was just wondering if the opposite of that was also true. You know, would you also not have them all so they were competing?
Well, yes, of course. The same with the darker beads as well. You don't want them to compete with each other. But here you go. Here's some examples of those little beads just here.
I'm going to have to say goodbye.
Yeah, no,
it's
that's
a bit
okay.
noisy, the builders. Okay, lovely to be here.
He's off, but I'll continue. I'll continue answering questions. But
Right. I
he's
have
got
to get
go
to the post office, otherwise you'll all be very upset.
Lady asked about the thread.
Oh yes, that's another interesting point.
Oh, the seeing.
Which I'll talk
Yep,
about that.
Okay.
So yeah, the interesting thing as well with your pastels is that you want them to have sufficiently different. Yeah,
These.
yeah.
No, because they're my favourites.
So yeah, with your pastels, you do need them to sort of be sufficiently different from each other, or maybe use different surfaces and things, so that you can actually see the difference in the beads. So much like this one here, you can see the blue and the yellow. They're very, very contrasting in terms of what works together and on the color wheel. So you really do see them from sort of separation between the two colours. And then the white that's in there, it's actually a very, very pale pink, gives you a little oomph of sort of neutral colours. So you can see you've got two that are opposite to each other on the colour wheel, and then just like a neutral to give it a pop in there as well. What else was I meant to show you? Here we go. So in terms of texture as well, I know it's with colour, you can use all very, very similar beads in terms of shape and size to get a very regular shape, but you can also use, so you can see in this there's lots of different color variations, which is the great about using natural stones, but then you can pop crystals in there to give it oomph in the same color, and they sort of blend in. But because you're using all different shapes and sizes, it's a very organic look. But then when you use all very similar sizes, shapes, you get a much neater look, like this one just here, but the difference comes by using different textures of beads. So ones that are more transparenty and shiny, that look like bubbles, in contrast to ones that are more muted, like a gemstone here, like a quartz, like this one just here. You can also use different types of beads in terms of how shiny they are. Like matte ones tend to, from a distance, if you've got nice big matte beads, they stand out really, really brightly and vibrantly and everything as well. And then in contrast, you can sort of add in, once again, those neutral color tones to give it a different effect. But also, which is interesting, is the amount that you use of the neutral colors, of the colors in relation to each other, gives you a different effect. So when you look at this one, you kind of, especially if you squint at it, you get somewhere that's somewhere in between those two colors, where with this one you've got the very definite sort of muted bluey grey color and then that purple looking separate, rather than them combining from a distance when you view it from further away to look sort of more like a single color, as it were. So these are all lots of interesting things to take into account. You can use really contrasting colors as well, like I've got here. But then, like I said, using lots of crystal gives you bling and vibrance and sort of really brings things to life. Like this lariat one here, you can use different shapes and sizes to create different textures and things as well in your designs. So all of these different shapes and sizes are what make it really interesting visually, where if they'd all been the same size, it would not look nearly as interesting as in comparison to having these big feature focals. So there's a lot that you can sort of do with your colors. You can even use different threads, which I'll talk about weaving with threads as well, because obviously if you don't have opaque beads, you can see your thread through, and that's a feature of your jewelry. So if, for example, you've got a bracelet or necklace or whatever that's predominantly blue, but you have a transparent purple, for example, in there. For some reason you've got transparent purple. You'd probably want to use a thread that's going to help that purple transparent bead look how you want it to look. So if you used a white, it will look a little bit lighter. If you used a black, it'll look a little darker. If you use a blue thread, you'll sort of get something that's looking bluey purpley, sort of mix and match between the two colors as well. So what thread you use does make a big difference to your overall design too. Let's see what other questions we have. I'll just pop back to that little one here, because again, you can also use, if you're doing things with like macrame knotting and whatnot, you can also use that same contrast of sort of the muted colors of your cord, and then sort of juxtapose them with those blues and things like you can see in this one, a crystal, to give it that extra oomph. So it's always about experimenting, about playing, trying out new things, sort of doing lots and lots of different things to try and experiment with your colors to really make them stand out. Like, for example, this little piece just here, what makes this one interesting is that it's one individual color that you've kind of gone for. So you can see I've sort of used this pinky tone as my predominant color, and then I've sort of oomphed it with all these different other tones. And just by looking at it, you can see the beads that stand out the most are the ones that are further away on the color wheel. So we've got like a big rainbow down the middle, but you almost don't even see this red color bead because it's very, very similar. But then once you go yellow, you see that a little bit, but not as much. The purple you really see because that's quite opposite. The blue as well really stands out. The green, they all start to stand out more and more the further away you get from your main color. But yeah, there's a lot that you can do with your color choosing in general. So there's a lot to learn, more or less. Here we go. Let's see. Light lavender bicones. A lady asked, what about light lavender bicones? What will go with it to make it pop? So again, if we have a look at our color wheel, there's a couple of different ways that you can sort of play with the colors on your color wheel to try and achieve that overall effect of what you're going for. So either, if we wait, let's see if I can find it. Come on now, here we go. So yeah, if we have a look at our color wheel, if you've got like a light lavender, so towards the inside of our coloring in the purple section, maybe somewhere in the middle, if you were going to use those together, you can sort of do your triangular shape, which maybe I'll show it on the bead mat here. Maybe this is the better way to show it. So if we have a look here, so if we're having a look at maybe something that's in this vicinity, you could either use something around here to make it pop if you want to, so maybe like a yellow tone, or use some complementary colors around it. So much like here we go, I can even show you your gemstone chips. So if we have a little look just here, just say you've got something that's this light purple sort of color here, which let's hope this will show the color nicely. Just say you've got something that's this sort of tone here. You could do your sort of secondary colors around it. So if you have a look, you could put in some darker purple with it, kind of like what we've done here, where you've got the light purple and a dark purple running through. You could do something like that, or you could even add in your additional color, which is something similar if you want it all to blend, of the pink, or you could bring in something that's completely different, completely opposite, and go for something that's more goldy toned. So like even use them all together, and you already see that this is going to go together quite nicely. So you've got your dark purple and your light purple together, and then you pop in some of these gold beads here, which these are silver line gold seed beads, and you can use that to sort of make this be your feature, and you just use your seed beads a little bit to sort of give yourself this gorgeous color overall in the end. So there's a lot that you can sort of do with it. If you want to go with opposites, if you want to go with ones that are sort of beside on the color wheel, there's a lot of different options. Here we go. And then this one's similar to something we were talking about before. It's hard to buy online. The colors look good, but a bit different than in real life. So yes, this is definitely, I think, the hardest point of buying online. But all you need to do, I guess, is sort of think about in terms of how much they're going to stand out. So if it's a transparent bead, it's going to recede right back into the background and sort of disappear when you use it. So if you're wanting to use like a transparent seed bead as your main focal color, it's going to just disappear, and you'll see other colors come out over the top of it instead. So when it comes to actually choosing online, you've got to take into account the type of bead that it is. So for example, if you have a transparent bead, you can be sure that when you use it, it's going to become a lot paler, a lot lighter. You will see it a lot less. It'll fade out. If you're going to go with an opaque bead, you can be pretty sure that the color that you're seeing in the photograph is going to be fairly accurate to what you're getting in real life once you get it on your bead mat. Potentially, if you're working with something that's color lined, it'll recede. If you're working with something that is a metallic surface, it might even look brighter than the photograph shows, because the camera sort of wants to turn itself light down. Depends. If you've taken the photos properly, the color should be good. But with metallic ones, again, they're going to look even brighter probably. So you've kind of got to just take that into account. The more see-through the bead, the more it's going to fade away, and the more opaque the bead, the much more it will stand out. Again, with shinier beads, they tend to stand outwards, and ones that are more matte, they tend to recede until you start working with big beads, and then at that point, your big matte beads, because they diffuse the light, you really do start to see those as well. So there's a lot that you can sort of have to try and think about when you're buying online, but definitely the more opaque a bead that you're using, the easier it will be to see, the more likely it will be accurate to what you're after. But of course, transparent ones are great if you want to sort of hide them into the background. So if you wanted to, like for example, that little cascade bracelet that I showed you earlier, you've got your main spiral coming around the outside, but you kind of want that to be the feature, and so you use more transparency beads through the center so that it recedes and hides away, and you see that bead that you're really trying to bring to the front and present as your main bead. But yeah, lots and lots of different things. Here we go. Here we go. So this is another question. What's meant in terms of galvanized? So galvanized, generally they're metallic beads that go through an additional process to make the coating last longer. You've got rainbow surfaces, which are generally very, very similar to an AB. The reason it's called AB is because it's short for Aurora Borealis. So essentially you're seeing a whole rainbow of colors on the outside surface of your bead. Trying to think. There's luster, which generally they use a clear sort of like a shine added onto the surface. So it's kind of like lacquering almost. That's what a luster does. Sphinx is similar, but generally there's like a color hue to it. I'm trying to think of what some of the others are. I don't know. Any other? Oh yeah. There's a lot of different surfaces, I guess, but that's I don't know. I'm trying to think of any others. But yeah, there's a lot of different combinations. More or less, the best thing to do is play. Try and fiddle with them. See what works for you, what doesn't. There's a lot of different ways that you can sort of play with your designs and your jewelry to come out with fun and interesting looking designs. So again, use that color wheel to look at opposite ends. Try out those 2 websites that I showed you as well, because they've got some fantastic tools and they're completely free. You can just go straight onto that Coolers website and use their generator and play with it. It's lots of fun, and it's a great way to sort of come out with that overall look that you're going for to create your designs. But yeah, so I hope I guess that's pretty much going to cover everything for today, I think. Sue's asking about Duracoat. Duracoat is similar. Duracoat is also like galvanized. So galvanized is like a metallic-y surface, and then Duracoat doesn't have to be metallic, but it's generally when they apply a surface to make the color last better on the surface. That's another good one. But yeah, Sue asking about using lighter and darker inside or out, much like with our butterfly that I showed you earlier. Let's just zoom back in. Again, you can sort of see the difference that you get by having lighter and darker beads in this example. So if you've got big blocks of dark, you'll see them because they sort of all come together to give you this big dark block. Your lighter beads depends again on the surface. If you've got transparent beads that are light, they're going to fade right out. If you've got transparent beads that are dark, you might still see them, but again, they're going to fade out a little bit. But obviously, transparents that are light fade out much, much more. And then when it comes to opaques, the opposite is true. So the darker the opaque, the less that it comes forward, and the lighter the opaque bead, the more that it comes to the front. So essentially, it's the opposite works. So things that are already trying to hide, the lighter you go, the more they disappear. And the things that are already trying to stand out, like opaque ones, the lighter you go, the more you'll see them. The more they stand out, the brighter they become. Because essentially you're increasing the brightness on this one to do that. But yeah, hopefully that answers quite a lot of questions. Obviously, if you've got any more questions, feel free to continue putting in comments. We can reply to you on comments and everything as well. Oh yeah, yes, let's show the dark and the light with the ivy. So for example, with the dark, both of these are opaque. Come on now. So both of these are opaque. So you see the darker color hides, and then that lighter color really comes to the fore and pops. So you can definitely see it here with this little leafy shape just here. Try and just hide the rest so you can see just him. So you can really see the dark hides and recedes into the background because they're all opaque, and the brighter color really comes to the fore. But then when you look closely, you can see I've got a transparent crystal on the inside. These are microcrystal beads that I've got here on the inside color, and they sort of start to fade away a little bit in comparison to those dark crystals. Because obviously if you've got a dark crystal, it's going to reflect more light, so you'll see it more. As opposed to on the other side where they sort of stand out more on the outside, stand out less on the inside. But again, it's about whether or not you're using opaque or transparent to give you the overall effect of what's happening there. But yeah, so I think that's going to do us for today. Oh yeah, where's the best place to get a color wheel, says Kaylee. I think I might do a PDF of one that you can print out. Otherwise, just Google color wheel. I could probably show you right now what happens if you Google color wheel. Where are we? Let's have a look at the screen. And if I just Google right up here, color wheel, whoops, if I spell it properly. There you go. You can just take one of these pictures, look at the images. There's so many of them. So many. This is a good one. Here's another really good one. And you just click on it, just print it out. Just print one of those color wheels out. Otherwise, if you're feeling slightly naughtier, what you can do is similar to what Mum's done, and you just go down to the paint shop and get yourself one of these little color wheels, because they have loads of these sorts of things at like the hardware store or whatever. And this particular one, which comes from a bead company actually, has these sorts of things where you can just rotate around, and it's going to give you some complementary colors and things like that. But paint companies have things like this. A lot of them have these sorts of things so that you can try these sorts of things out, play them, and try and see what you think of them there as well. But there you go. You can there you go. There are your harmonious colors and your contrast colors. But yeah, go and get one from a paint shop. They're pretty free. They want you to take them so that you'll buy their paint, I guess. So you can get them from like the hardware store and stuff. But otherwise, plenty of places you can get them. But yeah, so I hope you sort of enjoyed that. I think that's going to do us for today. We had lots and lots of people. Yeah, we had lots of people watching today. Lots and lots, which is great. Quilt companies have lots of color wheels as well, says Jan Alston, which is a great suggestion there as well. But yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. If you've never seen us before and you enjoyed today and you found it really informative, please do hit that subscribe button, share our video. It's always helpful for us if you can share those videos. We appreciate it. But yeah, I'm going to be back on Friday, of course, doing one of my tutorials. But yeah, there's plenty going on from us. So if you want as well, have a little look at the description there. There should be a link to get yourself a £5 voucher to our website if you want to check out some of our beading patterns. We've got lots and lots of different beading patterns that we do. So if you want to get some, you can very, very easily, which I'll just show you on the website here. This is our homepage. You can see this is the tutorial I did most recently. If you go to Kits and Tutorials and then Patterns, all patterns, takes you to where you can see all of our beading patterns. There's lots of them. Let's sort them by popularity, shall we? And you can see we've got lots of free ones. This one's quite good. Loads of different patterns that you can get and you can play with at all different prices. And if you get our £5 voucher, you can pick and choose as long as you've got at least £5 worth. So if you wanted to get, for example, the Brick Stitch Guide and our Ruth Bader Ginsburg collar together, with that little voucher, you'd only pay 50p. But if you've only got like £4.50, for some reason it doesn't want to work. I don't know why. It just doesn't. You could get the Times Square for free if you wanted to. Lots and lots of different ones you can try. Our Easter patterns or our brick stitch patterns for Christmas. Lots of things. Halloween. Try them all out. But yeah, plenty of patterns that you can get. But yeah, hopefully you've had a nice bit of fun learning today. As much fun as I've had teaching you. A little bit fun with Dad being here. Maybe we should do things like that more often. What do you think? But yeah, any other things that you want to learn about or things that you'd like to see or know about? I think today went fairly well, don't you? We could do things like that as well. So please do feel free to give us more suggestions on Q&A sessions that you want to hear about, things that you want to know, things that we can spend an hour or two chatting about. But yeah, thank you all very, very much for watching. I will be back on Friday, so you should hopefully get an email telling you about what's coming tomorrow. What's coming on Friday, either tomorrow or it'll be on Friday, because we send an email out about 15 minutes before we go live, and hopefully that should have the link that will take you straight to where you can watch our stream. But yeah, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hope you've had as much fun as I have. Thanks everybody who's still here. I see Kay is still here, Sue, Diane is still here, Betty's here. She says was very helpful and as always very fun. So thank you very much, Betty, as well. Sandy's still here, Kaylee as well, had lots of questions, which was great. Nancy stuck around. Loads and loads of people here as always, which is great. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you all next time. Thank you very much for joining, and bye bye.